What we're asking parents to do is to be everything at all moments in time to everyone. Hi, I'm Professor Leah Ruppanner. As a sociologist, I've made it my life's mission to take down every ridiculous gender myth out there. Like, do pretty people get paid more, or are women better multitaskers? This is MissPerceived. Hi, everyone. Welcome to MissPerceived. On today's episode, I'm going to talk to you about this idea of Maycember. Have you heard about this? It's going around on Instagram. It's a viral hashtag. And what it's basically capturing is this intensity of experiences at the end of the school year that just makes our lives challenging. Now, if you are sitting in Australia, hi, good day, I love you and I miss you. Let me give you an idea of what this looks like for you. In Australia, you would just call it December. Like that would be the answer. And since I speak both languages, Australian and American, let me help to explain what's happening in both of these countries, because a lot of our listeners are coming from both of these countries. So in Australia, the end of the year is in December. It's the start of summer, and you have the end of the school year, plus you have all of the festivities of Christmas and the holidays happening all at once. And what it means is and in addition to that, if you have children who are preparing for university, they also do this incredibly difficult end of year exam in year 12, where they're spending the whole year preparing for this exam. And this exam determines whether the students go to university or not, or which universities they go to. And so this is not something that happens in the US, but like there is an incredible amount of intensity coming all at the same time at 1 month of the year. I've heard people say basically that they will leave the country in part because it is just too much. And these were people without kids, right? Like they were like, I can't do it. There's so much partying, social events, and all of it in December because it's a combination of the end of the year plus summer plus the holidays happening at the same time. And there is just this intensity that I cannot sustain. Now, in the US, there's kind of this split between the holidays of end of school year and December, which has the holidays in it itself. And so what this Maycember hashtag is talking about is this US-based experience whereby there is this incredible intensity on parents to do everything in May to prepare their children for the end of the school year and figure out what they're going to do in the summer. And so what this looks like is things like summer camps. Have you remembered to sign your kid up for summer camp? Have you secured a spot? Did you buy the teacher a gift at the end of the year? Was it both thoughtful and also interesting? Did you get one for your math teacher and your English teacher and your history teacher and the school bus driver and everyone who touches your child's life at the end of the year? Now, in Australia, you wouldn't do this. I tried. The first year I moved there, I was like, what do I need to get my daughter's kindergarten teacher to say thank you? And Australians were looking at me like, what are you talking about? May I just say to my American counterparts, now I'm moving around the world, I understand, what a gift that was. They were like, we do not do this nonsense gift giving, in part because we just pay people a living wage. Now, I know that teachers in Australia are probably not making enough. I know that inflation is high. I know that actually, the work conditions could be better. But this idea that you as a parent would kind of supplement it, or you are there constantly feeding money into the educational system to overcome funding deficits, just doesn't exist in Australia. Basically, they're like, let's just fund the school well and make sure people have good working conditions and pay them well. And then you don't have to, give $10 in the raffle and then buy the teacher the gift. And then also make sure that you're always funding everything so your child can have an experience. I know American parents are like, wait, what? I was too. And in fact, it's a little bit offensive if you show up and give them a gift because it's just not part of the culture. But in the US, there's this kind of piling on. There's this piling on at this time of the year in terms of making sure all the end of the year activities are done. People feel special in them, and you are doing everything you can to prepare your child for the transition into summer, which is going to be 2 or 3 months long, to make sure that they are prepared. Now, you know exactly where I'm going with this conversation, and where I'm going is I'm going to tell you this is a form of mental load. Now, for those of you who are new to the podcast, the mental load is this emotional thinking work you do to make sure your work, life, and family are running. I talk about the 8 different mental load types in my book, Drained, Reduce Your Mental Load to Do Less and Be More. And you can find out what you specifically are carrying on lightenlab.com. You can take a free assessment. We've already had 7,000 people fill this out. 7,000 people have gone in and identified it. But if you want to see what kind of mental load you're carrying, you should go and look there. So within this, one of the key things that came through the research, and it comes up in the book, and I actually have another paper I've been writing about this, is one of the key contributors to parents' mental loads is schools. They talk a lot about the school as being an incredible driver of mental load drain, mental load intensity, and this need to be constantly looking for what is coming next. The constant stream of correspondence coming from schools and the constant asks. And I think what's going on in Maycember is you're having this intensity of it because the schools are kind of winding everything up for the end of the year, which means that that correspondence is on steroids. Plus there's all this kind of magic making happening. That's another mental load type. Magic making happening at the end of the year to make sure that your children feel special, your children are celebrated, and let's be honest, they have a little fun and a little less work at the end of the year, which then just actually requires parental volunteers. This is like the school fete in Australia, right? Like a kind of event that requires parents to step in and volunteer. And all of this adds to the mental load. So if you are feeling overwhelmed right now, that is probably what is going on. In the research article we were writing about this, one of the things I talk about is like schools almost become an additional role. So in the sociological research, we talk about role strain and a role set. It's this idea that like in your life, you are going to have a range of roles that you fulfill, and some are really, really demanding. So the role of being a worker or an employee is incredibly intense, in part because your workplace expects you to be always present, always on, always there, always accessible, always willing to work. And that is this like kind of intensive worker norm that we have about who you are supposed to be. So you have this role, which is I am a worker. And then it has these norms around it about how you should be a good worker and what that will then require you to do in terms of your energy. And then you might have a role of parent or caregiver. And that role, mom, dad, auntie, son, whatever it is, grandparent, will have a role set around that too. We'll have norms and expectations of who and how you're supposed to show up. And one of the arguments is that role is equally intense. This idea that if you are a good parent, and in particular a good mother, you are constantly available to your children. You are always showing up. It's time intensive. You are engaged. And this is another role that has a huge demand on it. Now, imagine if you are caring for an aging parent, there's a role demand on that too. What does it require for you to be a good caregiver? In that will be time intensive. And then the argument is when you bring these roles together, they create this intensity that makes it very difficult. Like they're incompatible. They create conflict. So if you've ever heard about role conflict, that's this idea that you're bringing these two very intense roles together and you only have a limited amount of energy, and the demands and the norms around them create friction. And so one of the things I argue in this paper is like, maybe we have lost the fact that schools also are another institution that has norms about what it is to be a good parent at the school, or, be a good supporter of your student. And that creates these demands and these norms, and they create another thing that you have to balance out. So you not only have to be balancing out the demands of work, the demands of being a good parent, but then also the demands of schools and how to show up in that space in a way that actually is both normatively appropriate. And what I mean by that is if you have this feeling of like, oof, I don't want people to know that I am not volunteering because they will think I am a bad person. I am not committed to the school. There is something, I'm not generous and I'm not giving. That's a norm. That's like a norm about how you are supposed to show up in that space. And it also overlaps with how we show up as parents. So a lot of the parents would say things like, I can, if I forget something like this, it'll come to me. That's one. And there'll be work on this no matter what. And two is that I don't want to be the parent who doesn't volunteer or doesn't help my child have the best experience in terms of, I don't know, teacher appreciation week or end of school awards. I want them to know that they are special. And so there's an incredible amount of pressure going on at the same time. And what I'm saying to you is, a lot of this stuff gets highly individualized in the US and Australia, in these countries where we've eroded the safety net. What we're asking parents to do is to be everything at all moments in time to everyone. Lily Riddell at University of Oxford University in the UK, she has this thesis where she talks about what this is asking us to do is do an incredible amount of coordinative labor. You're supposed to coordinate everything to make sure everything is happening as it should. And I'm saying to you that this is happening in part because we have eroded our safety nets. We've eroded the ways in which we might have relied on community in the past to do this. You have to now figure out where your child is going to go in summer, in part because they can't be home alone, they can't be unsupervised, they can't be whereas in the past they may have been, out in the streets with a gaggle of kids, out in the farm, running around working the farm or helping other people to do work or be connected. We've kind of now asked individual parents to solve all of these problems themselves, and we have very limited social support. So there is not actually an ability for you to very easily find care for your children, especially if you have to work in the summer. You have to almost cobble together a range of activities, a range of babysitters, a range of community events, a range of summer camps to make sure that it all works so that they have enough enrichment time, supervision time, and, experiences that help them grow. This, of course, is all about money, privilege, and access. And when you take away these resources and ask people to solve it on their own, it is in fact no surprise that those with the most are best equipped to create those experiences, those magic making, those dream building experiences for their children, and those with the least have the harder time. It's expensive, it's time intensive, and I'm saying to you, it's a waste of your mental load. It's a necessary piece of your mental load, but if we had a better system whereby you were not individually all trying to solve the problem and compete with each other for spaces into, say, summer camp, then the mental load would lighten. So, can I give you the conclusion that I always give you in all of this? One, your mental load energy is precious. You do not have a finite amount. You do not have an infinite amount of mental load energy. Your mental load energy is precious and finite. This is one of the core findings of my book. B is that you live in countries, many of us, where the safety nets, where the institutional context in which you are making these decisions drains your mental load, makes it harder to live your life, makes it harder to move through in a smooth and easy way. And C, that is because we have considered caregiving to be superfluous. We consider it to be something that is done for free, often by women, and we do not see its value, the way in which it underpins our economy, the way in which it actually should be paid, the way in which it creates economic opportunity for others, the ways in which it creates economic opportunity sometimes for ourselves. And because of that, we're all cobbling together all of these desperate solutions, some of which work, some of which don't, some of which our kids hate, some of which they don't. And we often don't have the resources and supports that exist in other countries. And that becomes a mental load task. Nope, not task. Well, yes, task, but tax. And my question for you is, if we could have a little bit more of a system that worked, if we could have a system that was more integrated, if we were able to rely on intergenerational support in new and different ways, if we were able to pay people for their caregiving work, what would that look like? If we were able to have people reduce their work time, work from home, have greater access to flexible work, to create a range of solutions that allow people to integrate work and family life, what kind of world would that be? I'll leave you with that because this is what I think about all day long. But What I'm going to say to you is Maycember is real. It is an intense spike in your mental loads. If you're feeling it and you're finding it draining, may I validate that experience? It is. And for those of you who are in other countries, you know what this is. This is the end of school year coming on top of all the other things you have to do to keep your life moving. If you want to learn more, go to lightenlab.com or pick up a copy of Drained. It's now everywhere, y'all. It's everywhere. It's so exciting. I keep wandering into bookshops and buying my own book. But then what I do is I hand it to someone in the bookshop that I think might like it, love it, or read it. So if you ever see me in a bookshop, I'm about to do that. So stay close and I'll hand you the book. I hope you're having the most wonderful week, and I am sending you all the love, joy, and energy that you deserve. I love you, and I hope you have a wonderful rest of your week. Okay, and also, thank you for listening to MissPerceived, where you don't need a PhD, you just get to come hang out with me. Bye, I love you. Bye. We are so lucky and grateful that this series is being supported by the Melbourne Public Humanities Initiative at the University of Melbourne.